Hello, this is Cynthia Head here, and I'm the founder of CAP. And I spend a lot of time thinking about the English test. So, this is my first time to take a practice English test. This is the 2008, and or you can look at it as Form 0661C. So, um, just like students that feel a little nervous, I'm not going to lie, I feel a little nervous. We're going to take the test together. I'm not going to try to do it in 45 minutes because I'm going to think out loud and I'm going to explain some things to you as I go. But I am going to time myself so that I can have an idea of how long this process is going to take. So it's a little intimidating as a teacher to do this because we all want to be right and perfect. And so I'm really not sure which ones I'll get right and which ones I'll miss, but I guess that just proves, hey, we're all human. So, okay, let's get into it. All right. The music of Odom. Let me say this. If there's a funky name like this, Odom, I want to start pronouncing it. So when I come across that, I just start calling them O. Okay. So if there's a hard name in there, I'm going to put in a fake name. Okay. So that I can because my brain, I have an editor brain at heart and it will want to start like, pronouncing things. So, and it'll slow me down a little bit. So, let's go. So the music of O. For some people, okay, so my brain, the editor, one of the first things I do a lot of times is I'm trying to figure out subject, verb, complete thought. That's one of the first things across the board. And I also look at the question, I scan through the question, and I think, okay, what are the things that are changing here? What are the things that are the same? And I think through what skill is this trying to assess? So with time, you can figure out, okay, the ACT wants to know if you can do parallel structure. The ACT wants to know if you can find active versus passive voice, misplaced modifiers, all that good stuff. So as we go through, I will name the skill to the best of my knowledge that it's trying to assess. And what I want you to do is only look at the ones you missed or the not sure of. Maybe you got it right, but maybe you were just kind of guessing a little bit and you lucked out on that one. So look at those that you got right, those that you missed, or those that, I'm not sure. The rest just kind of scan through. So you don't have to spend whatever length of time this takes me to do this. All right. So I'll do little tutorials as we go along. For some people, traditional American Indian music is associated and connected with high penetrating vocals accompanied by a steady drum beat. Okay. So traditional American Indian music is associated and connected. So I think this is redundant to add both. I think they are trying to see if we can have a more concise form of communication, meaning the more short form, connected by, music is connected by some of them. For some people, traditional American Indian music is connected by some of them, linked by association with, and associated. So really, if I was in a big hurry, I'd probably choose D a lot faster than I'm going for it now. But let's go with D. Okay. Okay. In tribal communities in the southwestern United States, however, one is likely to hear something similar to the polka-influenced dance music of northern Mexico. The music is called Wali. I'm just going to make up a word there. Okay. Among the O tribes of Arizona, Wali has been popular for more than a century. All right, so we've got some commas, we've got some words changing around. Again, there are choices that are shorter and longer. Okay. Wali has been popular for more than a century. Wali has been popular, one might say, for more than a century. I think that is just too much. Okay. Wally has been really quite popular for more than a century. Wally has been popular for the duration of more than a century. I think we're just going with F. I think all of these, they're just trying to, it's really kind of like the first skill. It's just adding in too much there. Okay. So this not, there are some students that I kind of recommend circling the not, because if it's a least or a not question, sometimes students miss those, I think, from carelessness. So circle the not when you come across that. Alrighty. The music is mainly instrumental. The bands generally consist of guitar, bass guitar, saxophones, accordion, and drums. Okay. So because I've got a dash there, which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion will not be acceptable? Okay. So okay, I'm looking at, I guess I need to keep thinking out loud. All right, I'm looking at A. Okay. The music is mainly instrumental. So we got a sentence there. The bands generally consist of guitar, bass guitar, saxophone, accordion, and drums. So I have two sentences there. Okay. You can have a dash between two sentences. So the way to think about that is a dash is kind of behaving like a colon. Okay. So I'll look at I'm looking at A and D first because it has a semicolon, and a semicolon can hold two sentences together. I'm looking at B, and a comma can't hold two sentences together. And I'm looking at C, and a period, obviously, you got sentence one, sentence two. So what's going on here is you've got an independent clause, and then you've got an independent clause. Now, it is doing a little something with the in general, comma, the bands. One of the things I was processing is I was trying to see if they were tricking me with, like, if they were going to turn bands into singular versus plural, and they didn't. The only thing they really changed is they made a little prepositional phrase to begin A. But you have to recognize that a semicolon can hold two sentences together. A period can go in between two sentences. A dash can go between two sentences. And, between A and D, the only difference is they put in general versus putting generally. Okay. So feeling pretty good about B, in that you can't hold two sentences together with a comma only. Okay. You'd have to put a fanboy. If I put a fanboy here with that comma, then that would work. Okay. But B is not acceptable. Okay. Unlike some traditional tribal music, Wali does not serve a religious or spiritual purpose. It is a social music that performed at weddings, birthday parties. You're moving to the next page, and I don't like that. Okay. I've got my paper copy here. And we're just going to put and feast. Okay. That's what we're missing on the next page. Okay. So just pretend that that's there. Okay. And feast. Yep. That's on. Okay. All right. It is a social music that performed at weddings. That feels weird. It is a social music in which it is performed. That's long. It is a social music performed at weddings, birthday parties, and feasts. It is a social music. It feels like it should be like that is. Like, it is a social music in which it is performed. That's just long. It is a social music performing. No. So I'm going to go with J. Performed at weddings, birthday parties, and feasts. So I'm going to stay in that kind of past tense form. Okay. Let's keep moving. I'm not going to give you a deep answer there, but um, the word itself comes from the Spanish word for dance, baile. Okay. So here's let me get on number 5. Let me kind of give you a little grammar tip here. On B, in the past, I would have been tempted with B. Okay, the word itself, because I would think, oh, itself. It's not necessary. The word comes from the Spanish word for dance, baile. But that whenever you see a pronoun that's emphasizing the word right in front of it, so if I said the president himself, the word itself. So the answer is going to be A. This is a situation where we don't want any commas. We can't, when you put things in a comma, when you set things off with comma, like if I would have gone for B, then when you set things off with commas, you can throw it away. But whenever it's emphasizing, whenever the pronoun comes right after the noun like this, like the president himself, it's really emphasizing that noun before it. So in these situations, you don't have to think much. If you just remember, oh, it's necessary for that sentence, the word itself. So that one's kind of fun because if you could just, this pops up regularly. If you can just remember no commas necessary, then you're good to go on that one. Okay, cheek to cheek. The dance is performed to the relaxed 2-step tempo, and the bands often play long past midnight. Isn't that nice? Okay, so I'm going to scan and compare. So my first reaction is I'm thinking this might be a misplaced modifier where like they're swapped, because it looks like, just at a quick glance, it looks like they're swapping things around. So let's see if this is a misplaced modifier thing. Okay. Cheek to cheek, the dance. Now, can the dance be cheek to cheek? Let me think on that. Okay. So whatever's modifying needs to go right next to the thing that it's modifying. So cheek to cheek, dance. That one feels a little odd, but let's keep looking. Cheek to cheek, the dance is performed to the relaxed 2-step tempo. So I can make this decision based on that first part. I really don't have to read the rest to come up with a good answer for this. So couples dance cheek to cheek. Okay, so that feels better. To the relaxed 2-step tempo. A relaxed 2-step tempo, the couples, okay, so it's not H, right? Sometimes you want to think first, what is it not? It's not H because the couples, they're not a relaxed 2-step tempo. They're not that. Okay. So J, cheek to cheek, the 2-step tempo. Nope. So this is testing misplaced modifiers whenever things are kind of like swapped around. Okay. So I'm going to look at F and G. Couples dance cheek to cheek to the relaxed 2-step tempo. I like the way, really, cheek to cheek, we're talking about the couples dancing. So it feels wrong to say cheek to cheek the dance. Okay, it's the people are the ones that are cheek to cheek. So let's go with G. 7. Oops. Okay. So I can see that we got a little bit of, okay. We got a little comma usage going on here. Kind of pull this up. So yes, I'm looking, all the words are staying the same except for we have some commas. So I like to go with the most commas and work my way back. We're always thinking through what do we know is wrong? And for this, I just need the end of that to analyze. I just need to look at the bands often play long past midnight. I just need that because that other independent clause, it doesn't play into what I'm trying to decide here with my commas. So I don't even have to look at that anymore. The bands often play long past midnight. The bands often play long. So when you're looking at commas, you can also think through, do I need a pause? The bands often play long past midnight. No. All right. That's too much. Too many commas. The bands often play long past midnight. The bands often play long past midnight. I don't think that I think it's just describing how often they play, and I don't think any commas are necessary for that one. 8. As the dancers step to the music. Okay, so as they're doing it, okay, as the dancers step to the music, they were also stepping in time to a sound that embodies their unique history. Very grandiose. Unique history and suggests the influence of outside cultures on their music. Let me say this, as I'm moving along, I'm really not to this point paying a lot of it. I'm really, my brain is very active in the grammar part of it. Like, I'm not thinking through, I'm like roughly thinking through what's happening in this story, but I'm thinking through grammar rules. I'm not thinking through like, oh, do I enjoy this story? I could really almost up to this point take it sentence by sentence and make some judgments. Now we're about to get to number 10. That's okay. They're going to add something. And so this is going to take a little bit of different thought where I have to consider the whole thing. But up to this point, all these questions, you could have just considered them on their own, just sentence by sentence. And it's a very some very grammatical grammar decisions you're making. Okay. 8. As the dancers step to the music, they are also stepping in time to a sound that embodies their unique history. So I would probably kind of make my decision there based on, I would stop at history. Okay. As the dancers step to the music, they have also stepped in time to a sound that embodies. Okay. As the dancers step to the music, they will also, so I'm going to take my cue from this step, okay, from this tense. As dancers step, they are also stepping in time to a sound that embodies their unique history, okay? So this I step, it's not I will, not dancers will step, dance as they step, they are stepping in time. Okay, so we're going to stay in that present tense. Number 9. Okay, in time to a sound that embodies their unique history. So I have to think through. I got 2 choices. Or several choices. It is, okay, sound that embodies it is unique history? No. Okay. This one, I like to talk about it because it is a cruel trick. It is trick. Is it a trick? There's not a thing. Okay. This is not a word in the English language. You have 2 options when it comes to its, and that's not one of them. You have IT, it is, and then you have ITS, And think of like his. Like his is possessive pronoun. Its is a possessive pronoun. It's, so when you see this, just think, Miss Head said this is a cruel trick. So there, I'm either going to be possessive or I'm going to have a contraction. So in time, to a sound that embodies they are unique history, no, not they are unique history. Their, it's their history. They are owning. It is a possessive pronoun. Sweet. Okay. 10. At this point, the writer is considering the following true statement. The agricultural practices of the Ode are similar to those of the Maya. Should the writer make this addition? So my first instinct is no, unless we're going to start talking about the Maya, then so are we? Are we going from these people encountered the guitars of Spanish missionaries, waltzes, European descent of their way? So when I'm coming up with, okay, so when I encounter, should the writer add this? I'm thinking through first what my answer is. My answer is like no, because Maya is, unless I'm missing something here, that's off topic. That's like, again, let me go back. Let me process a little bit. Okay. It feels like it's off topic. And in my brain, I'm thinking through Aztec. Like I'm thinking through the different, but I'm not seeing it referred to. Okay, so my answer is going to be no. Okay, so, and the agricultural practices. So what does that have to do anything? We're sitting here talking about music. So I'm going to say no. No, because the sentence is not supported by evidence of a connection between the O and the Maya. No, because the sentence detracts from the paragraph's focus of Wali's uses and influences. Okay, so we think it's no. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go with J. I'm going to go with J. Okay, because it detracts from the paragraphs. You know, we're talking about Wally. Why would we randomly start talking about agriculture? So, um, okay. Alrighty. J. We're going to go for J. All of the following would be acceptable placements for the underlined portion except. Okay, so when you see that, least, except, we're going to circle those. All of the following would be acceptable placements for the underlined portion except. So if you look over here, we've got this underline. Okay. The O in the 1700s first encountered the guitars of Spanish missionaries. Okay, so that's where it is now. That would be A. Okay, at the beginning of the sentence, okay, in the 1700s, the O first encountered, okay, at the beginning of the sentence, revising the capitalization accordingly. Okay, I personally like B bet. Okay, well, let's say what would be except. All would be okay except. So I actually like B as far as an option. That would be okay. It would be acceptable. Okay. After the word guitars, the Odom first encountered the guitars in the 17th. Yep, you can't put it after the word. First encountered the guitars. What guitars? You can't say they first encountered the guitars in the 1700s. You're separating what kind of guitars from of Spanish missionaries. So I'm pretty sure that this is not going to work, and the reason that would not work is because we need to know what kind of guitars, so what it's modifying. Okay, the Odom, which I know that's not how you say it. I'm just kind of making up something. The Odom first encountered the guitars of Spanish missionaries in the 1700s. Okay, yeah, feel pretty good about that. All these other ones would work out fine. So if you want to practice this skill, misplaced modifiers. Okay. Next. Okay, in the 1850s, the Odom blank from the waltzes, the masquerades of people of European descendants on their way to California. Okay. In the 1850s, the ode borrowed. I just think it just needs to be borrowed. Let's just keep it simple. Okay. So they encountered and they borrowed. Let's not make it harder than it has to be. Okay. As far as for an explanation, you've just got a simple past tense. I believe that's called simple, but they're not actively doing that. In the past, they borrowed and it's done. 16. Okay. Given that all the choices are true, which one is most relevant to the focus of this paragraph? In the early 1900s, the Ode became acquainted with marching bands and woodwind instruments, which explains the presence of saxophones in Wally. Okay? In the 1900s, the Ode became acquainted with marching bands and woodwind instrument. Which one is most relevant to the focus of this paragraph? So this paragraph is talking about, you can kind of go to the beginning of the paragraph. This paragraph, because you've got your topic sentence, this paragraph is trying to talk about when they encountered Spanish guitars. And then it's talking about, it's got a timeline. Okay, now in the 1850s, they borrowed from, okay, so we're shifting to, it's still staying in that timeline. In the 1900s, the Odom became acquainted with marching bands and wood. So this is showing like in this time frame, these were were influencing him. In this time frame, this was influencing them. And now in the early 1900s, okay, now what's influencing them? Okay, they became acquainted with marching bands and woodwind instruments. Okay, which one is the most relevant to the focus of this paragraph? Okay, which explains the presence of saxophones in Wally. Okay, although fiddles were once used in Wally bands, even though they're now often constructed of metal, which are frequently found in jazz bands also. Okay, so I'm going to go with with A, no change. So what made me decide that? Okay. This, let's see, this other one is talking about guitars. All right. Anyway, I know that marching bands and woodwind instruments, there are saxophones in those. And and I feel like they're saying this was introduced to them in the 1900s, and it's trying to explain the style. And so I feel like A carries on with explaining why something is there. All right. B also talks about like fiddles, but I don't feel like it's an opportunity for an although. I think these three segments is talking about what's going on, not although fiddles were once widely used in Wally bands. So I think that first phrase stays with the focus of the paragraph and also complements marching bands and woodwind instruments nicely. Around this time, the polka music and button accordion played by German immigrant railroad workers left their mark on Wally. So now we're going polka music and button accordion played by German immigrant. Honestly, I'm starting to get a little tired. You're probably getting tired of hearing me, but you can pause. But I'm going to keep going. Bless my heart. It's taken me 32 minutes to get to 14. Okay. Around this time, the polka music and button accordion played by German immigrant railroad workers left their mark on Wally. Okay. So whenever I see a semicolon and I see a colon, I'm thinking through, do I have a complete sentence on either side, on both sides? So to the right, left their mark on Wally. Not a complete sentence. So just by that, the right side not being a complete sentence, I know it can't be F. F is not an option. Okay. Now, around this time, the polka music and button accordion played by German immigrant railroad workers. Okay. The left side of a colon has to be a complete sentence, and that is not. Okay. Workers left their mark. Like, we need workers is your subject and left is your verb. So we can't get with a colon, the left side has to be independent clause, and it's not. You're separating, you're messing up this little clause here. So that's no good. Can't separate that clause with a colon. So let's look at J. So you can't put a comma in between workers left their. So if you say railroad workers left their mark on Wally, that feels like a nice little sentence. You can't have some kind of punctuation in between that. So that's no good. So really the simplest answer is G. All right. Upon reviewing this essay and finding that some information has been left out, the writer composes the following sentence incorporating that information. Those same German influences helped spawn a similar musical form in northern Mexico called norteño. Okay, this sentence would most logically be placed after the last sentence in paragraph. Okay, so if you're newer to it, you can kind of see the paragraphs marked there. Okay, and so if I went back over, All right. Upon reviewing this essay and finding that some information has been left out, the writer composes the following sentence incorporating that information. This sentence would most logically be placed after. So we started seeing the German influence right here. Okay. Those same German influences helped spawn a similar music form. Okay. So I think it should be after 3. So if I was in a hurry, I'd go after 3 because I like that it's after this. You know, the first time we see German is here. So I don't see why we would go all the way back to any other paragraph. Yeah. So that one does take having like a comfortable knowledge with the whole thing. So let me read this little paragraph. It should be no surprise that musicians these days are adding touches of rock, country, reggae to Wally. Some listeners feel that an American musical form may soon be lost, but the Ode are playing Wally with as much energy and devotion as ever. A unique blend of traditions. Wally will probably continue changing for as long as the Ode use it to express their own sense of harmony and tempo. So my apologies to that people group because I just spent this whole time saying it wrong. But yeah, okay. So I would go with 3 because we talk about German influences there, talk about German immigrant railroad workers, and we want that to continue on. We want those thoughts to be near each other. Passage 2. How old am I? Are you excited? Yes. How old am I? Many people might be surprised to learn that the American way of computing a person's age differs from the traditional Korean way. This is fascinating. In Korean tradition, a person is considered to be already 1 year old at the time of his or her birth. As a child growing up into cultures, I found this contest a bit confusing. I found this contest, change, dispute, difference. So this is testing your ability to select the right word. And I think, it's not trying to be super complicated. I think just difference. It's a difference between American and Korean culture. When I was in the 5th grade, was I 10 or 11 years old? To add to the confusion, every New Year's Day, a person, according to this Korean counting system, becomes a year. Becomes a year older, regardless of his or her actual birthday. Interesting. Okay. So I see a semicolon and I'm going to decide, do I have a sentence before and after it? I like to rule out the semicolon first. To add to the confusion, every New Year's Day, a person. Well, that's no good. It's not a complete sentence. Every year, New Year's Day, a person? No. Okay. And it also feels wrong to have a pause there. A person, according to this Korean counting system, so there is this comma here. Okay. If there's that comma there, I have to have something. In this situation, the comma needs a buddy. It is trying to set off this non-essential phrase, okay, with commas. So the very fact that this comma is here means that I need another one there. So non-essential, setting off non-essential information. Let's just go for it. We won't even go, we'll be crazy. We won't even go look for the other ones. Move a little bit faster. Okay. All right. Birthdays are important throughout the world. Well, feels like a no-brainer. Most cultures celebrate birthdays. Birthdays focus attention on a culture's youth. Birthdays focus attention on a culture's youth. Birthdays are important throughout the world. Most cultures celebrate birthdays. So I'm gonna just delete it. All right. This is not really adding anything. It's not adding anything to it. Most cultures celebrate birthdays. I could see why somebody would go for that, but because we're not really comparing many cultures, it seems like a really odd thing to throw in there. Seems unnecessary. So let's just go with confidence. Let's go with J and say, hey, we don't need it. It's like kind of a duh. No, you're not really adding any new thought here. Okay, a person who is 16 years old on his or her birthday in March would become 17 years old on the following New Year's Day. And so it also kind of is random to that flow of thought. It's sitting here talking about the way Korean birthdays are set up, and then to add some kind of random sentence absolutely needs to be deleted. Okay. A person who is 16 years old on his or her birthday in March would become 17 years old on the following New Year's Day, even though he or she isn't expected to turn 17 in American years until the next birthday in March. Perhaps the celebration of New Year's Day in Korean culture is heightened because it is thought of as everyone's birthday party. That's pretty cool. Side note, someone I love dearly has a New Year's Eve birthday. So he says, everybody celebrates my birthday. All right. 19. So let's take a look. Is heightened. So this is a word choice question. Perhaps the celebration of New Year's Day in Korean culture is heightened, is raised, is lifted, is lightened. Okay, so I'm not going to go with lightened. That sounds like a burden. There's not a burden that's been lighted or lifted. Okay, both of those feel like there's something like belaboring in you, and you're like, oh, it's so much lighter now. Okay, but it is more exciting. It is more exciting to have a New Year's with everybody's birthday. So what kind of gives that sort of? So perhaps the celebration of New Year's Day in Korean culture is raised. So okay. Or heightened. I would say the celebration is heightened. It's just kind of a word choice, a vocabulary thing. But you're looking at celebration is better. It is better. It is like highlighted. So I would say the celebration is heightened. And that's just basically, that's a word choice. Like what word you feel is most appropriate there. Okay. Upon reviewing this paragraph, the writer considers deleting the preceding sentence. If the writer were to delete the sentence, the paragraph would primarily lose a comment on the added significance of the Korean New Year celebration. Okay, so it's going back to the sentence that we just looked at. See that number 20? Okay, So it's saying if we took this away, okay. All right. What is this? I think it just kind of, this illustrates just culturally how it would make this day special and more exciting. Okay, so whenever you come up to, if the writer is deleting, think through your answer. So that would be my answer without looking at the answer choices yet. Okay. Now let's see what they put. A comment about the added significance of the Korean New Year celebration. A repetitive reminder of what happens every birthday. I wouldn't say it's repetitive. A defense of the case. No, it's not defending the case of doing it. It's just saying, hey, it's more exciting. An illustration of the Korean counting system. I would say F. It's a comment on the added significance of it's a more special day because everybody's like, yay, I'm a year older. It's just like a birthday on steroids. Okay. So there's my answer. I say after I finish this passage, we look at the results. I want to see how we're doing. Okay, let's see. How far are we? All right. When we get to 30, we're going to take a look at some results. See how we did. When I say we, I mean me. Today, I need some feedback. Today, after many birthdays and New Year's days, I now find meaningful the difference I once found confusing. So her heart has been changed. Okay. Otherwise, this difference points to significant underlying cultural values. Okay. Though, in fact, then. Okay. I think today, after many birthdays and New Year's days, I now find this, the difference I once found confusing. Okay. In fact, okay, so I think that the author is going to carry on and share, like, not only is it important, but this different point, it's not just a superfluous thing. It's not just a thing that just happens and doesn't have meaning. She's saying, in fact, this difference points to a significant underlying cultural values. So then would kind of give a time sort of transition, though I like this, though I also like that. So there's a contrast, and then otherwise is also a contrast. So because it's an idea, she's saying it's significant. In fact, it's this significant, and she's going to say, so it's like an add relationship. So whenever I see a transition word, I'm thinking through, is it an adding relationship? Is it, so it's like and relationship? Is it a but relationship, meaning like there's some kind of contrast? Though is like a contrast. I like ice cream, though I never eat it. Sometimes maybe taking those transition words and putting it in a sentence that feels good to you can help you decide, is this a contrasting? Is it, I'm going to illustrate? And so in this situation, it's like, I now find it's meaningful. In fact, the difference is so meaningful, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to illustrate it. Okay. So on 22, this difference points to significant underlying cultural values. This difference points on, this difference points. So you can't say like without it, that feels really weird. This difference points significant, no. Points to, points on significance, at significant. This difference points at. So the other one that would be very like a maybe, it would be a little tempting to me, would be maybe at. So this is, this one is F. It points to significant underlying cultural values. This is an idiom. So there are some ways that we just express things. And if you're looking for more, if this one was hard for you, prepositional idioms is something that you can look to and get some practice. So if English isn't your first language, 22 could be a little challenging because of that. But there's not a hard, fast rule other than here are the ways that we say these things. And so points to is just an American way that it's said. There's not a hard, fast rule for that. Okay. The practice of advancing a person's age seems to me to reflect the value a society places on life experience and longevity. Okay, so we've got A. So this is kind of a clue here. A. So it's not underlined. We know A's got to stay. A person's age. So the first one is one person possessing age. A person's age. Okay. B is multiple people possessing an age, which is not going to be multiple people. It's not going to be B or C because of this A here. This lets us know that it's just a person. Okay. So then we're looking at A versus C, person's age. We do need to possess this. Like my age, right? My age, I'm possessing my age. Tommy's age. So apostrophe S is how you show possession. 24. Their idea was demonstrated often when my elderly relatives who took pride in reminding younger folk of their Korean age. Okay. All right. This because we've got a pronoun and I've got to figure out where it's referring back to, I'm going to read the previous sentence as well. The practice of advancing a person's age seems to me to reflect the value a society places on life experience and longevity. Their idea was demonstrated often, okay, this idea. So this idea of valuing, so it's referring to, so I'm going to go with this. This idea of, society, the value of society places on life. So this idea was demonstrated often. So, I was trying to look at 24 to see if I need to dig there a little bit deeper, but I think it's just as simple as that. This idea is referring to their idea. You would have to have, but it is, if you can understand that this value, this is what you're referring back to, this. So that's why it's not there. It's not a person. And it's, okay, let's move on to 25. This idea was demonstrated often when my elderly relatives who took pride in reminding younger folks of their Korean age. This idea was demonstrated often by my elderly relatives. While my elder, as if I'm going with by. This is a word choice. Which choice would most clearly communicate the elderly relative's positive attitude toward this practice? Which choice would most clearly communicate the elderly's positive attitude toward this practice? Okay. With great enthusiasm, so that shows me it's a positive attitude. Duplicating an accepted practice, living with 2 birthdays themselves, they added on a year every, okay. Obligingly, okay, so to oblige would be like, oh, I gotta do this. So sometimes if you chose J, it might be because you didn't fully understand that word of obligingly. It's like, oh, I'm obliged to do this. Living with 2 birthdays themselves, they added on a year. So really, I think F is the clear choice to show like a positive attitude. Okay, we're so close. 4 more. By contrast, American society has often been described as one blank values the vibrant energy of youth over the wisdom and the experience gained with age. Okay. By contrast, American society has often been described as one okay, so I'm thinking through each pronoun. Okay. Has often been described as one. So it's a pronoun. So you're thinking through, what am I referring back to? By contrast, American society, okay, has often been described as one. Okay, so the society, American society is one that values I'm going to go with, so I'm trying to think through like American society. Is it like a that versus, okay, American society. I'm going to try to, okay, it values the vibrant energy of youth. One. Okay. I'm going to go with A. I'm going to go with A. Yeah, I'm going to go with just kind of my instinct with A. So I'm saying like, but I'm looking at American society. It values that. So I'm thinking through like the pronoun it when I'm choosing that. One that values. So, okay. All right. That might be the one. I don't know. I'm very curious to see what the answer is on that. Okay. If the writer, so if I did whom values, no, whom is an objective form, and you don't need the objective form there. Okay. This values has often described as one, this values, no, that just sounds weird, has often described as one whose values the vibrant energy of youth. I feel like I think American society and that values. Okay. If the writer were to delete the phrases, the vibrant energy of, and the wisdom and experience gained with, from the preceding sentence, the sentence would primarily lose its personal and reflective tone, an element of humor, details that illustrate the contrast, the preference expressed by the writer. So if the writer were to delete the phrases, the vibrant energy, okay, has off, and the wisdom and experience gained with, from the preceding sentence, the sentence would primarily lose. Let me be very honest. Okay, we've been into this, like me explaining this for an hour, and my brain is like, I'm like that phase where I'm like reading sentences twice. Okay, so God bless my students that I put them through this on a regular basis. I do take this occasionally so that I can have mercy on you. It is hard. Okay, so I'm like reading this, but not even reading this. I need to, wake myself up. If the writer were to delete the phrases, the vibrant energy of, and the wisdom and experience gained with, from the preceding sentence, the sentence would lose. Okay, so it's personal reflective tone. An element, it's not humorous. That's not funny. If that's funny, it's not funny. Okay. Details that illustrate the contrast. The preference expressed by the writer. So, yeah, I would say maybe I'm leaning towards it's not highlighting the difference between American and okay, so I'm thinking it's F and J. Okay. So leaning towards J. And when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, does this give like the author's, the writer's preference? Okay. I need to go back and take this in context for me to answer it. Okay. After a certain age, many Americans I know. No, say I was trying to answer 28 and then I saw this line here and thought it was going to start going here, but no, it's not. It's going back up here. Okay. So to process this, I need to read the sentence before. Okay. Their idea was demonstrated often when my elderly relatives, who took pride in reminding younger folk of their Korean age with enthusiasm, they added on a year every New Year's Day. By contrast, American society has often been described as one that values the vibrant energy of youth over the wisdom and experience gained with age. Okay, well, it could be details that illustrate the contrast. Okay, so maybe it is that one. If the writer were to delete vibrant energy of and wisdom and experience, yeah, you're contrasting the old versus young, and these are illustrate that contrast. Excuse me. If the writer were to delete the phrases, okay, so illustrating, my brain was like going numb there, so it was like So it happens to your teachers too. I'm like sitting there reading it, but not reading it. Okay. So H, I think, yeah, it's contrasting. Just an example of like your brain can freeze after a while. Like I was reading words, but I was not understanding. It's not even that hard. That one. Okay. I know. Okay. After a certain age, many Americans I know would balk, refuse, and hesitate. So all of those at the at adding a year or two to what they regard as their actual age. So this is word choice, and it's like, are we repeating ourselves here, saying the same thing over and over? So I would say D. Those are kind of synonyms of each other. What's challenging about 29 is if you don't know the word balk, then it would be hard to know if it should be balk and hesitate. That could be just fine. Or most people probably feel pretty comfortable with refuse and hesitate. So those vocabulary ones, that's why we practice our vocabulary skills, because you could be in a situation where balk comes up. And that comes really with years of reading to be able to do some of those, but still work on your vocabulary practice to give you confidence, to build your ability there. 30. Okay, so we're going to check, see how I did. Even something as visibly simple or natural as computing a person's age can prove to be not so clear-cut. Traditions like celebrating birthdays reveal how deeply we are affected by the culture we live in. Okay. Even something as visibly simple, apparently simple, entirely simple, fully simple. I would say apparently. You would think it would appear to be simple. I'm not using visibly because it's like that just kind of is looking towards like you can see it. Entirely simple, fully. This is another word choice. Okay. All right. So this is kind of, now we go back. Let's see how we did. I don't know why I keep talking in plurals. Okay. All right. I'm just going to use another beautiful color. Or maybe you want to give myself like a, yay. I'll give myself like a, I need a stamp or something. Okay. I'll do a thick blue when I get it right. How's that sound? Okay, 1D. Yes. Wait, you're supposed to give me a blue. Okay. Yes. Okay. 2F. Yes. 3B. Yes. 4J. Yes. Huh. Okay, I kid you not. I was nervous about this. Because now I'm thinking through, like, earlier I was thinking I'd have to edit this stuff out if I missed one. Okay. 5A. Yes. 6G. Yay. 7A. Yes. 8G. Yes. 9A. Yes. 10J. Yay. Okay, let's keep going. See, I was a little concerned about that one, I think. 11C. I did get it right. I was just trying to find my little thing again. Yay! 12J. That makes me so happy. Okay. 13. 13A. Whew. 14. G. Okay. 15. C. Those make me a little nervous. This can be a little bit harder sometimes. 16. J. Yes. 17. B. Whew. Like you need my sound effects, right? 18. Oh, the things I do for my students. 18J. Yes. 19A. Yes. So I was kind of tempted by B a little bit, if you got B. 20F. Whew. 21. C. Yes. 22. F. Yes. 23. A. Yes. 24. J. Yay. 25. B. Woohoo! 26. F. I really sincerely do feel a sense of relief that I'm getting these right. Okay. That's given me my second win just to be able to be like 27. A. Yes. Now this one, I don't know. 28. H. Yes. What a relief. 29. D. Okay. 30. G. Nice. Okay. I feel pretty good about being halfway there. I don't even know how. Okay, let's do this. I don't even know how long YouTube videos will take. So let's just go ahead and say this is passage 1, passage 2 complete. It's been fun thinking through these out loud. You guys have gotten to experience my first time doing this. And so obviously it took me an hour and 12 minutes to check and explain and all that good stuff. So no worries if it takes you time to do this. But all right. So I'm going to stop sharing this and we'll pick up part 2 after I get a little bit of a break. Bye. Cynthia Head here.